Joining me now to discuss, the man himself, Lewis Brackpool. Lewis, thanks so much for being with us today. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Of course. So I get why people like the tradition of a king and queen. However, if you crack open a history book, they're rarely ever the good guys, and they're always the people who are obsessed with power and control. What are your thoughts on this continuing legacy? Do you think people should really be bowing to the crown when we very well know that, they've already sold their people out?
It's a good question. Of course, my views are not going to represent the majority of the UK. Everyone can make their own mind up on what they feel about the coronation and King Charles III. So my views are just completely independent from anyone else's. So I'm actually going to upset both sides here. There are people who call for the abolition of the monarchy out on a whim. I think that we should really pace ourselves with something like that because, of course, like I mentioned, a mixed government with a monarchical system has proven over the years to be a safeguard to tyranny. I know the last 3 years haven't exactly met up to that standard, so there's open for debate on that. And equally, I personally will not be pledging my allegiance to King Charles III personally because of everything that I have just stated there. He's the first openly political head of state, which, if you look back, it's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be the government that is political and the head of state is separate as an institution. He's openly supportive of net zero and these disastrous policies, which I believe are attacks on the poor. On top of these, the rubbing shoulders with people like Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, who, as we know, are pushing Agenda 2030 into not just the UK, but America and various other places, Canada, Australia, everywhere. So for me, that doesn't represent how I feel. It feels a bit sacrilegious going onto an American network and saying all of this. But unfortunately, the mainstream media over here will probably not want to listen to someone like me say stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And it's sad it has to be that way, but I think we can all relate in that regard. For us here in America, it has to do with the wonderful Joe Biden, who I can't help but see a lot of similarities between the two, right? I mean, both are most likely unfit to be the leader of these great nations. And not to mention, they're all tied to the same nefarious characters and just completely ready to sell out their countries for the almighty dollar, right? I mean, that's the direction we're headed.
Well, exactly. And, you put up a great point with Biden. I mean, watching from overseas, it's quite disastrous to see that. And I'm sure you probably think the same of what's going on over here. So we definitely have stuff in common. But I think it's notable to say that these two figureheads don't actually represent how America and the UK feel about each other, and that there are many people that actually share common interests. And the relationship between America and the UK, I don't think can ever be divided completely. So I think people are sort of saying, well, those are just figureheads now. What the people truly think is completely up to them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, these two first world countries supposedly got the science wrong or whatever their excuse may be. And now citizens are just forced to accept business as usual. Do you think anything can be done to ultimately foil their plans? What do we do in this scenario?
Well, I think talking about it is one of the main factors of trying to uncover what we believe is tyranny or, of course, corruption. I think that's definitely the way to do it, is just to be open and to hold people account and to call it out when you can. So, for example, you're inviting me on to talk about corruption, to talk about the reasons why I won't pledge allegiance. And I think it's important for people to know both sides. Equally, like I mentioned earlier, the abolition of an entire institution just on a whim, I think, would be a bad idea for now.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.